What's up, folks? How are you? Thank you for clicking on the video. So we're on day 5 here of my new daily show that I wanted to put together. Car guys just getting together, car gals talking about various things in the industry. So my name is Damian Knight. We're going to get into quite a few subjects here tonight. Trying to keep it diverse, but we're continuing that conversation with GM. But first off, we're going to talk a little bit about this Porsche pig livery that has appeared on a Porsche Taycan for Amelia Island. We're also going to talk about this very strange but intriguing. A viewer actually requested I talk about this mid-engine Camaro. We're going to get into what this picture is about. Obviously, this is my wonderful C8R that I love, but what we're talking about is the cancellation of Sebring and Long Beach. Lots of races getting canceled. And so then we are going to segue that into the Tesla versus GM, Elon Musk versus Mary Barra war. And we're going to talk about how things are going to impact the automotive industry here on Night Drive Live, folks. Forced induction fabricator, engine management tuner, shop owner. I wanted to start a daily show about everything automotive. You're watching Night Drive Live. So that's right. So we're going to get right into it. Craig, what's up, buddy? Yes, you did catch a live show. So if anybody's watching, feel free to leave a comment. We are going to keep this show going Monday through Friday. I'm changing times, and I've been kind of working around trying to figure out where I want to be specifically. But I think we're going to start by probably getting into this Camaro situation. And one of the viewers kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about this Camaro?" Now, obviously, as you can see in the picture here, it's Gabe.design. This was a guy on Instagram that kind of put this together, and apparently he has a C8 on order. So he kind of did this rendering. This is a Huracan, and that frankly, he did a pretty good job in Photoshop there with the reflections and whatnot. But kind of grafted a 6th gen, ZL1 type of front end on there, and just kind of proposed it, and so it's kind of taken off. And I don't know. Some people, obviously, the hood and a few details there weren't possible, I suppose, based upon the configuration. But let me just go ahead and wipe this theory out. This is not going to happen. So, for one, what I was anticipating, and some people may or may not be aware of, is that there was some spy photos taken not long ago, and we know we have the ZL1 1LE, which was the full aero package, 650 horsepower. LT4. This is the Alpha chassis that's within GM. So there was obviously people were waiting for the 6th generation Z28, and this car was actually spotted out and about not long ago. But I have a few pictures of it, and a lot of people. I got people texting me over here. A lot of people were curious about when this car was going to come out and if it was going to come out. And clearly, we were only to believe that the LT5 out of the ZR1, the 755 horsepower, would probably end up in this car. So this was a GM vehicle, had a GM plate on it, no aero, but it appeared to be a ZL1 1LE, and it had carbon brakes on it. That was the big kind of giveaway. But the ZL1 1LE front dive planes, no rear wings, so this kind of immediately stood out to some people as this must be a manufacturer mule. But the situation was that this car is now, according to insider sources with GM Authority, this is canceled. So the reason that this is getting canceled is that the Camaro kind of fell into 3rd place behind the Mustang and behind the Challengers and just the offerings from FCA. So while they did sell 50,000 cars in I think it was 2018, it's just they're not hitting their sales targets, and I think the GM as a whole is looking at their vehicle set modularity that's moving forward and how they're going to move forward with EVs and things like that. They have like 20 EVs planned. So interestingly, the chief engineer for the Camaro program is now the head of electric vehicle development within GM. So that's kind of probably a hint to it. But essentially, they have been given the order to sunset the Camaro yet again. So after 2002, we saw the Camaro go away. The word right now is that basically until further notice, it's going to be paused indefinitely, probably after the 2023 model year. So they're going to ride out the Alpha chassis a little bit. But we are seeing changes within Cadillac. That was a Cadillac sharing platform with Camaro. And Cadillac is just constantly trying to figure out what it wants to do, where it wants to go. And like I've talked about, and what we're really going to get into talking about, I think next week, I'm going to lay out how all these manufacturers have dramatically changed basically the way that they're doing manufacturing. I think it's something that people in the automotive world, just car enthusiasts and people out there trying to kind of, be a part of the scene and know what's going on. I think this is critical that you understand how the manufacturing side is really rapidly changing, and how GM and Ford, BMW, they've all invested heavily into this new form of manufacturing that's going to dictate really everything. And it's why when you saw Ford say, look, we're not going to sell sedans anymore, they tried to, there was media trying to say that it was because of the trade wars with China and materials and things like that. It really was predictable because GM's doing much the same. This is about crossovers, SUVs, trucks, and EVs. So, basically, unfortunately, I feel if we ever see a Camaro again, it's probably going to be some kind of electric EV Cadillac sharing platform or reinvented in some way. It's the way it is. But we have the ZL1 1LE to remember, and obviously the 5th generation Zeta platform Z28, which was an LS7 all-motor manual gearbox. It was a bigger car, but we had some good Camaros, some good muscular Camaros on the way out. But, we may inevitably see something like this, and it's quite possible that we see the Mustang Mach-E. We know Ford's going to kind of they use that Mustang name plate for that SUV, and the motor trend. And listen, you can't trust renderings. You always have to be suspect. Just like this Camaro mid-engine, you have to be suspect when you see any kind of rendering. You have to see, is this internal from that manufacturer, just some random artist? And they're going for clicks. So this was rendered at some point, I think in mid 2019. It really probably has little basis in reality, because we saw that the Blazer came out and was very Camaro in the front end. So we may be looking at the future platform of something that will use some kind of skateboard configuration, kind of like Rivian is putting together and GM is developing. So we'll see. But unfortunately, the mid-engine Camaro C8 kind of owns that space, and if they share, I suspect it'll probably be some kind of Cadillac iteration that's more electric and techy to kind of compete with some BMW offerings and whatnot. So that's probably going to be the case when it comes to that. And we love the Camaro. I love the Camaro. I think it was a pretty cool car. I've loved it since high school and looking at the third gens, but that may be it for the Camaro. So let's move on to the terrible news of the day that I'm not very happy about. But if you're familiar with IMSA racing, obviously this is why I showed the picture of the Camaro, or the Corvette C8R. Sebring, the 12 Hours of Sebring, great race down in Florida at an old Air Force base that was used in World War II. Crazy tarmac and surface. I totally look forward to this race every year. It is now officially canceled, but they are going to move it to November. So the interesting part is Road Atlanta is typically the last race of the year, which I've been to several times, Lace and I, and lots of people, we've been down there. It's a great race if you ever can get to basically it's just east of Atlanta. If you can get to a race, totally awesome. Camp, get a tent, just go all in. But they're now going to move Sebring after Road Atlanta, so it will now be the decider for the championship at the end of the year. So that's kind of a way to salvage it. It's better than nothing. I was kind of happy to hear about that, but this is canceled obviously due to the concerns over the coronavirus. The problem, though, is that the race after that is Long Beach Grand Prix, which is a serious race. It's in LA. Obviously, this does huge things for the economy locally, and this is usually a race that has all kind of different types of motorsport, not just the prototypes and like the WeatherTech Championship. They have stadium trucks, they have drift, they have all kinds of things. This is a big event for people in LA, and being in Vegas, really thought about going this year, and that's probably not going to happen, because just the idea of, to go to an event like this, lots of people have to plan in advance. And at this point, I guess with the pandemic, they are not sure what's going to happen. So throw me a comment, guys, if you what you think about this virus. I mean, it's concerning. Wash your hands, keep yourself clean, and just exercise due caution. But obviously they want to aggressively stop this. So the cost of the cure is really going to be the big thing. How much is this going to cost? What is this going to cost businesses? What's this going to cost? Just so many different local economies. I know here in Vegas, we rely on conventions and things like that, and lots are being canceled. So I guess the key is we want to get it stopped and get ahead of it. So that's going to be the situation for that. And so we're going to talk about something interesting I came across. Porsche, Amelia Island is a pretty cool event down in Florida, and some very interesting, historically significant, lots of race cars come together. And they talked about the Porsche put 3 racing historic liveries on Taycans. And so that was kind of a interesting, this is the Porsche Pig, if you're not familiar with it, and it was based upon this winning race car. This was the 917, if I recall. And basically, they did some aero developments on it in the aero when aero is really starting to take hold of the prototype classes in Le Mans, and it kind of looked like a pig. So they just kind of put lines and like it would be different cuts of a pig. It was a pretty interesting livery. Lots of Porsche fans really enjoy it. So if you ever see something like that, it goes back to the Porsche Pig livery. This livery here was basically based upon this car, which also was very successful. I cannot recall which Porsche this is offhand. It's probably in the article. I'll get back to it. But basically, not bad. And then this was the Brumos Porsche. The Brumos cars were big in Daytona, very successful back then, and were known for that red, white, and blue livery. So obviously, Porsche is trying to make this connection between now we are leaving the gas-powered kind of driver-oriented, history that we're known for, and they're trying to connect the dots here with the EVs and make people feel, I guess, the connection. You know what I mean? So, I don't blame them for it. I'm very interested in. If Porsche companies like Porsche and Audi, like really the ones that understand, I think, what people theoretically want in a driver's car, if we're going to be able to kind of continue this feeling of being engaged with a car that's electric, the power onset, everything's different. But I think the big thing is when you get some cars have hub motors. It adds to unsprung weight. You lose steering feel. Obviously, the steering in these cars are all fully electronic, so it comes down to the development of that. And then the noise. I think that people just are used to the noise that comes with the linear power delivery of a gas powered engine. And so it'll be interesting to see companies like Lamborghini and Ferrari, how they kind of take an approach to this, because inevitably, just like in fashion, things start at the very top on the runway, they trickle their way down. Eventually they're in Walmart one day. So I guess GM's like Walmart, and so we'll eventually see what happens, and hopefully as iterations of the Corvette come out, we'll see what happens in terms of EVs remaining kind of driver oriented. I'm kind of curious about that. We'll see what happens. Tell me what you think about are you excited about EVs? If you're one of these guys, like I drive a manual gearbox, I love the connection to the car. We'll always have that, and I like I saw at SEMA. Companies like Factory 5 and things like that, these low volume manufacturers, we're always going to have an option, unless it gets mandated out to where we can't drive it, like you're seeing in some parts of Europe, as a commenter I think the other day mentioned. Essentially, I think that we're always going to have an option to have a manual gearbox. We can own drivers' cars in one way or another, and obviously the used market in our lifetime. But I am curious to get behind the wheel of some of these as they come out. I know Chris Harris drove the Taycan and said it was just ridiculously fast for the street, but straight line fast and fun factor. I think that we get into this digital era of paddles, and it's all about quicker shifts and faster and quicker time, 0 to 60 quarter mile. But there's a flavor in there. There's an enjoyment factor in there, and that's why people buy Miatas. It's why people buy cars that aren't, S2000s. I mean, cars that they just feel and experience, and it's not necessarily about this crazy speed, because cars on this level of 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, you can't enjoy them on the street. You can't use them. So other than that little exhilarating pull from a red light, who knows where this all will lead. Obviously, electric motors are very capable of propelling something super fast. That's not in question. I think it just comes down to driver enjoyment and how digital all this gets. So we'll have to see about that. And so, obviously, I started looking into some Tesla things here, and just kind of see. I'm trying to get a feel of where this market is headed in terms of how the coronavirus is going to impact, because we saw shutdowns in China. We saw things that are impacting the supply chains, essentially. And obviously, these manufacturers, thank you, RNM1. So, New Mexico 1. R stands for something, I don't know what. But thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm working on it, trying to finish off the Friday here. Like I said, for people just joining, I wanted to do an all car show for car guys, so we can have a conversation as this grows. I'm hoping these turn into about 2-hour shows where we can just talk about cars, and obviously I'll go back and forth with people in the comments. But we're kind of getting into the virus's impact on the automotive industry and supply chains, and essentially, even though you see manufacturers like GM and, they have the plant in Bowling Green for the Corvette, and, Hondas get built in Ohio, you have a supply chain of manufacturers that supply headlights and components and electronics. These things come in from all directions. It just comes together in that factory. So if you have factory shutdowns, even of one or two key components, it can completely disrupt the production of the car. And so, interestingly, since we're talking about Tesla versus GM this week, that has happened with the Model 3. And so basically what happened was with the self-driving technology, the autopilot, and the full self-driving chip upgrade, they have the 3.0, I think, version of the chip in the Model 3s. They had a supply chain issue with those, so they're putting older chips in the Model 3s to get them done. And the Chinese government, who has helped fund the factory for Tesla out there, basically gave them the slap on the wrist and said, you need to make it right. So this is going to happen. Mary Barra of GM said that they have supply chain out until mid to late March. But they said after that, it's going to get interesting. So that's where we're at right now. So to kind of wrap up my week here for Tesla, I wanted to talk about the master plan, and that is something that Elon has laid out, and how he's going to move forward with Tesla and where Tesla is in terms of investment. We've seen the stock yet again plummet. The volatility of Tesla stock has been like Bitcoin, almost. It's crazy. It was at 900, I think, 900 and some dollars per share in December. It's at 540 right now. So that was a very interesting development. Basically, as all this is taking place with the virus, we're seeing this volatility, and Elon Musk is not too thrilled about it. He tweeted that this is dumb. That was like his comment. So basically, there's a side effect to this coronavirus, is that Elon was supposed to go to trial, basically for being sued because of his involvement with Solar City and his purchase of that company. And many people may not know about this, but I'm going to wrap up my talk about Tesla with Elon's dirty deeds a little bit in the master plan. But basically, Solar City was started by his cousins, and Solar City was to develop the roof tiles, develop the home systems, and this was part of Elon's master plan. He wants to develop these vehicles, and obviously charging from home. If your home is covered in solar tiles for roofing, you go down to a battery that Tesla develops for storage, and then maybe even charge the car off of that. Continually on the master plan was the Model 3 was going to become a robo-taxi. The idea of the robo-taxi is that once the full self-driving technology is capable enough and the car can drive itself, there is a plan that he has proposed to investors that this vehicle will be able to leave your house at night, go out and make money for you and revenue as a taxi, fully self-driven. So if you select the FSD option, which is $7,000 with the Model 3, theoretically one day the firmware updates and the updates over the air will come and unlock this ability. What Elon has talked about in that master plan is that the price of FSD option will go up then, because if you can theoretically monetize the car and have it go to work for you and earn money for you, the price of that option is going to go up. So he's trying to create this sense of urgency to buy a Model 3, entry-level Model 3 base model, as base as you can go with the FSD option, is over $50,000. And so, somebody tweeted, does this mean the price of the FSD is going to go up? And he just said yes in a single word. So that's part of the master plan, and the Solar City was part of that. And so Solar City was started by his cousins, and essentially he, through manipulating and kind of pushing on the board of Tesla, bought it for $2.6 billion. The issue was the company was completely in debt. It was insolvent, even as they found out. So shareholders of Tesla kind of moved forward and said that the board didn't, go through with their fiduciary responsibility, protect their interests, and he bought this broke company. But it was kind of critical to his overall vision. So these are the risks I think people take. But interestingly, coronavirus has delayed his trial. So I guess that's, for now, he said it's dumb. But in his defense, his attorney said that the claims of the plaintiff's lawyers are looking for a payday. The accusations made in the plaintiff's brief were false and misleading. And Tesla and Solar City published all information in its proxy and other public filings for all shareholders to consider and decide on the transaction, in which it did move forward. So, we'll see. As far as looking at Tesla versus GM in this future, I just think Tesla has such a broad vision. Elon Musk has such a broad vision. He's running this company like a startup, and like as if it's still almost a private company. GM just doesn't have a rudder that moves that quickly, and I think that Tesla and Elon Musk have a vision of kind of obviously a lot more than just an automotive company. It's more of a technology company with a lot of different brands underneath its overall blanket. So, that's something to kind of see where this goes. The updates for the FSD and the Model 3s had come out. I had some interesting basic slides for that. But, basically now the cars are able to recognize stop signs. They're able to recognize traffic lights, identify the color. This is happening more and more, moving towards the ability for these cars to completely self-drive and self-steer on their own. So I think that, despite the stock volatility and things like that, I think we need to just get past this coronavirus for all parties involved, all companies involved. But as far as the EV future goes, I don't know that Tesla will ever be the 2.5 million car volume that GM is today in any immediate future. But I think that their objectives are still there's still many to be overcome as far as obstacles within Tesla. But the interesting part of Elon's agreement with Tesla as CEO is there are milestones that he has to reach in terms of market value and capitalization and things like that. So clearly he's very disturbed by the stock price tumbling down, because going from 900 and some dollars per share down to 550 basically took the market cap probably from 175 billion down to 100. So this is the impact of the news and of this virus. So going to be interesting moving forward to see where this goes. But his milestones in his contract really require that there's a certain value, and so just looking at that, we'll see what happens. But I'm trying to look at my notes here, see if I had anything else. So the interesting part, and something I'll add for Tesla fans out there, is that Tesla has never been profitable to this point annually, according to like generally accepted accounting principles, which would be GAAP, as some people may see. They have never been profitable, but the way that Elon's contract is adjusted, it's like an EBITDA, is the way that they put it. It's before interest, amortization, depreciation, things like that. They kind of calculate the income of the company differently, and under that calculation, Tesla's profit in 2019 was almost $3 billion. So he is meeting the marks. I think people will continue to invest in Tesla, and it's going to be interesting to just see. Even here in Vegas, we have the tunnels being dug under the convention center, which is kind of the evolution of his Boring company, which was for tunnel systems to go under cities. And I mean, he's a great visionary. I think it's interesting to see someone have the resources that he's built, and you can see how a lot of his companies kind of complement each other. So I don't know. I want to drive a Tesla. I know that much. I want to get out there. I've never driven one. I've been in them, but I haven't driven one. I'm curious if it feels like a dead machine. Anybody watching driven a Tesla? But I haven't to date. I think I'm a little interested. I could definitely see people in rush hour traffic who wouldn't want to just be able to sit back and do nothing. I think that's probably very appealing. But in terms of, in terms of day to day, I think I would obviously still, I enjoy something engaging and something like a sports car. And I think that's, I talked about it yesterday on the show, is the EVs, the 0 to 60 acceleration, the forward acceleration that they have really threatens, I think, the sports car, the traditional sports car, in a lot of ways, because most people, even as you know, that buy Corvettes, they don't use them on the track. You're talking about 5%. Camaro ZL1 1LEs, how many people are going to HPDE days and driving them? They're buying them so that they can have something quick on the street to do a little sprint on an on-ramp and things like that. And when you start to see all these different EVs checking that box, will people want to buy a 2-seat sports car that's kind of becomes a very niche machine that they can only use at certain times when, there's not going to be anything particularly special? How fast can you get 0 to 60? They have to make sports cars do something new. Float, fly, do something like that. So make you want to sacrifice the accommodation. So I don't know. I think that's why Camaro, Mustang, I mean, for now, Ford said the Mustang is safe, but, the Mustang Mach-E, these SUVs and crossovers, it gets you wondering, when you electrify these, if you can keep them handling, if you can make them regenerate and do well on the track, obviously it's, a purpose-built sports car may be a thing of the past in some future. So I don't know, folks. We'll see. Hopefully the show keeps on growing. I'm working hard on it. This is 5 days. Next week, I think I'm going to do mornings, around noon. I'm going to probably initiate the show around noon Pacific time, which will put me at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to try that, and I think the week after I'm going to try early morning. So, we'll see what happens. Interesting thing, Craig, is the I agree with you in the lack of engine noise, but I saw like an app, and I meant to look into this. This guy had an app, and he was controlling the exterior sound of this Tesla. It was on one of the Facebook groups to sound like a Lambo and all these other things. There's speakers outside, I guess at least enough that you can hear them. I don't know if that's a standard feature on the Tesla that they have an external speaker, because I know there were mandates they wanted for pedestrian safety in Europe is to have them emit some type of noise under a certain speed so that people can hear the car coming because they're so silent. But yeah, he was making it sound like a Lambo, and I said, man, the app's going to make it sound like you're driving a manual and everything. That'd be kind of weird. But I remember guys in like the early 2000s that had like automatic Hondas or something. They would manually shift the automatic. They just didn't even want anybody to know that they didn't have a manual. And so I like, but now, nobody cares. And so Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to try the show during the morning there, and we're going to keep on going, guys. So if you've watched this after it's been recorded, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and check out some of the other shows. Obviously, I don't just do this live show. I also do a lot of more packaged videos on various subjects. We have Corvettes, and we do a lot of off-road, fly crazy drones, do all kinds of things. So check out some of my other videos. We're continuing to grow. It's been a good 6 or so months. I've actually had this channel. If you look at the age of this channel, I had it for like 13 years. This has been my main account, but I turned it into Night Drive TV in October, I think it was, or late September. And so since then, I looked at my metrics the other day. I think this channel was only at 105 subs or something like that in October. So we've had great growth since SEMA. Had some really successful videos, and obviously Tesla videos have done well as well. And I've been able to grow to almost 5,000. So I got it in my mind, guys, that I'm going for 100,000 by November. So that's my goal. I wanted to go to SEMA, and I just wanted to get there again. I've been in the automotive industry lots of years, and it's been a dry couple past years here. I've been in a little bit of a low side, so really trying to get back and use all this knowledge I got stuck in my brain from building and being in the industry so long. So I don't know. That's about it for me. Anybody that's come in, I appreciate you. Scroll back in the video, we can go over. But next week we are going to talk about manufacturing techniques that all the brands are using, and we're going to continue with the daily news and see what's going on. So until the next one, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks everybody for watching. All my regulars I've seen, and we've been getting some good views on this, so I appreciate it. So I will catch you on Monday. Check me out around noon East or Pacific and about 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to target that range, and that'll be that. So see you on the next one, guys. You have a good night. If I can find the end stream.